We ready, Erica?
Yes, it's just YouTube just activated right now. So we are good to go.
Mayor, I'm unmuting you.
You're muting me.
I'm unmuting you.
Oh, okay.
Yes, we
Ready?
are.
Call the roll.
Yep.
YouTube just activated right now. So we are good to go. Roll call. Mayor Bain,
I'm home.
Vice Mayor Zapata,
You gotta unmute her.
I'm unmuting.
Councilman Best. Yes.
Ready? Call the roll.
Present.
Councilwoman Mitchell,
Here.
Councilman Petralanda.
Here.
We have a quorum present. Mayor Bain.
I'm home. We're gonna say the pledge?
Yes, sir.
You gotta unmute.
Go ahead. All right, stand.
Present.
Councilwoman Mitchell. Here. Councilman Petralanda.
Something,
Quorum present.
ready?
Yes, I
I pledge allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag
Flag
of the United States of
of
America,
America.
and to the
And
to the republic
For
for
which
which it stands,
one nation,
one nation,
under God,
under God,
indivisible,
Indivisible.
indivisible,
with liberty
with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. All right, I guess what we have no, we pledged agenda order business, nothing. Award presentations, none, so we go to open forum. Anybody wish to speak at this meeting?
I do not have anybody for public comment.
We'll wait just a little bit.
Okay.
Okay, I'm gonna close the open forum. We go to 6A, March 9th, 2020, regular meeting, 6B, April 20th, 2020, special council meeting. I entertain a
Through the-
motion.
Through the chair, motion to move 6A and 6B, sir.
Second.
Call the vote.
Vice Mayor Zapata,
Yes.
Councilman Best,
Aye.
Councilwoman Mitchell,
Yes.
Councilman Petralanda,
Yes.
Mayor Bain.
Yes. All right, we go on to the consent agenda.
9A, this is a,
There are
Nine.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5 items on the agenda, consent agenda, and Tammy will read them now.
Mayor,
this is a,
I'm sorry, but I'd like to discuss them.
Which ones, Councilman?
Well, I think we should discuss the first and the last, which will be A and D, I think.
A and
And E,
E, the uniforms?
yes.
All right,
I-
then
And I would
make a
like to
motion.
discuss, excuse me, and I would like to discuss D also.
Okay.
All right, does anybody want to discuss B and C? Okay, let's make a motion to pass B and C, and we'll start, and then we'll go ahead and discuss A and go to D and E.
Through the
can I
chair,
read it into the record first?
Sure.
Okay, 9B is a recommendation by Public Works, the council approve an increase to an open purchase order 200240 in the amount of $23,000 to BDS Land Service Corp. for tree trimming services throughout the city. Council approved $100,000 in October 8th of 2019 as funds were approved for the fiscal year budget 1920.
Okay, can I
And
get a
then-
motion? Oh, go ahead.
9C is a recommendation by the police department that council authorize the issuance of the purchase order to Royal Rent-A-Car Systems of Florida utilizing Miami-Dade County's bid number 8809-0/19 for vehicle rental services in the amount of $10,388 for the monthly rental of 2 vehicles for a 7-month period as funds qualify for the expenditure from the Police Law Enforcement Trust Fund, and as funds were budgeted for the fiscal year 1920 budget.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion for
Through the chair,
B,
motion.
B and C.
Through the chair, motion to move items 9, B, and C.
Second,
Call a vote.
Vice Mayor Zapata,
Yes.
Councilman Best,
Aye.
Councilwoman Mitchell,
Yes.
Councilman Petrolanda,
yes.
Mayor Bay.
Yes, okay, we're gonna discuss 9A. Who,
Okay, so
go ahead.
I'll read it into the record first. Recommendation by Public Works, the council authorize the issuance of a purchase order to Distributors, Inc., utilizing Miami-Dade County contract number 1298-1/21-1, which is attached, in an amount not to exceed $47,502.50 for the purchase of street tree planting and planting of street trees, as funds were budgeted in the fiscal year 18-19 budget.
As further
It should have been said
discussion,
19-20 budget, sorry.
as further discussion on this item, I just want to add this. The above total includes $25,000 previously budgeted in the 1920 budget for tree planting, and $22,000 recently agreed upon on January 17, 2020 by the Neat Streets Grant Program for tree planting for fiscal year 1920. This is the same grant that we received last year, and they awarded us another $22,000 this year. And of course, in order to get that grant, you need a matching amount of $22,000. So what this is calling for is the entire $25,000 that's been budgeted, plus the $22,000 coming from the grant.
So the grant actually totals 44,000.
The grant is $22,000, and we're using the $25,000 that we budgeted in our own budget for this year.
I got you. All right, who wanted to talk about this?
I did. Mayor, in my opinion, I feel like from this point on, even all the budgeted items that we budgeted in last year's budget, we should revisit them, considering the situation we're going through, that if we don't spend it this year, maybe we can put it back in the budget and use it next year. So that's the reason I pulled this item. This is $24,000 that we could probably hold on to for next year's budget. It's just a thought. I want to see what you folks think about this suggestion that I have, not only for this agenda item, but other ones that are coming that we budgeted throughout last year's budget, that we should tighten our belts right now, because next year's budget is going to be a tough one. And if we can save dollars everywhere, we can save a dollar. In my opinion, I think we should do that. So that's the only reason I'm pulling this item out. See what you folks think about maybe not spending the 24,000. And I know it's a matching grant that if we don't spend the 24,000, we don't get the 20,000. But in my opinion, maybe the economy should even hold on to that money and use it, because they're going to be hurting as much as we are. That's all I have about this one, Mayor.
Okay, anybody else? Any other comments?
Yes, Mayor, I would like to, if possible, thank you, Councilman Petrolanda. I would like to respond to this. I think we should vote to spend this money on tree trimming. Being the tree canopy in our city is a vital part of our community, very important to the residents, and having Neat Streets provide us, the county streets board provide us with the ability to fund for a grant, and all we have to do is matching funds. We get double the trees for our money, I think is a really important part of continuing. Also, to your point that the county may hold on to this money. If they do hold on to this money, if they don't hold on to this money, it'll go to another community and we lose our chance. Next year, that won't be available. That source, those funds won't be available to us again for quite a while. But right now, that money's been allocated by the county for Neat Streets to use for tree funding. So if we don't use this opportunity, and I think we need to, as much as possible, making the things that are very essential to our community. Planting of new trees has been because we've had to, as you know, last year we transferred a huge amount of our new tree funds into tree maintenance. So we're very, very low on any tree funds, and having matching grants from the county is a plus for us.
William, is this money for tree trimming or just purchasing?
Tree planting.
This
This
is
is
planned.
Just
for
planting,
new
not
trees.
trimming.
New
Yeah,
trees.
planting,
no,
not trimming. No trimming. Okay.
No.
Anybody else?
Through the chair, thank you, Mayor. While I appreciate Councilman Petrolanda's concern on the expenditure here, it's my thought that if you walk away from something like this, it's very difficult to reinstate your position down the road in terms of you're a player or you're not a player. In deference to that, I'd be inclined to go along with this as well, relative to the fact that it was already in the budget. Thank you, Mayor.
Mata? Councilwoman Zapata?
I think the point that Maria Mitchell brought up is an important one. I'm always very adamant about our maintaining our Tree City USA and the canopy and all of that. And I agree that if we don't use those funds, then, we may not be getting them next year, and they will go to some other community that will use them when we can certainly use them. So I don't see a reason not to approve.
If we went ahead and just matched the 22,000, the matching grant 22,000, and saved the 25,000 that we put in the budget, and to think about using that later on down the road this year, can we do that?
No, about using how much?
In other words, 22,000 is the matching grant. You're getting 22,000.
No. Yeah, we're getting a $22,000 grant, but we have to spend 22,000 of our own money.
I understand that.
That would be a total of 44,000.
Okay, so in other words, the money that you're spending right now is actually the money that was budgeted. You're
Right,
actually
right.
spending money.
We-
Okay,
Yeah,
all right.
yeah.
I got it. Well, anybody else have any other comments?
Well, Mayor, to your point, which is a good one, actually.
Thank you,
and it
Bobby.
plays in-
Trying to make you think a
Patience,
little bit.
Oh, you do that, Bill, trust me. It's kind of playing into Councilman Petrolanda's hand in a way, because, yeah, we could throw 22 at it as opposed to 25 and save $3,000. That would be a fair thing. Is that correct, Mr. Alonso?
That's correct.
And you still get the same amount of trees?
No, you get less trees.
But wait, the grant is for how much?
The grant is for 22,000
Okay, then why do we got put 25 in?
because we have to match 22,000. We have to match the grant dollar for dollar.
Okay, so why couldn't we put 22 and 22?
You could, but we budgeted
save-
25. That's why Tom is using 25. If you could
But
bring in
that's
Tom-
not that, but that's not against what the trees are coming from the county is. The same amount of trees are gonna come from the county, whether we spend that 3,000 or not.
We're gonna get 22,000 from the county for a
Right.
set number of trees.
Right.
And we have to
Right.
spend, so if you don't want to spend 3,000, let's bring in Tom and find out how many trees are we talking about in $3,000 that we won't be planting.
Wait a minute. You're not saying it right to me. I'm saying that 3,000 is our money to spend on trees. It doesn't do anything with the matching grant amount. Correct, Tom?
Correct.
Okay, all right.
I have 73 trees on the docket right now for the monies that are planned right here.
Okay,
We do have a considerable amount of residents that are on a waiting list, but we also have some areas, what I call satellite areas, where we were going to put additional trees. We have,
just get to the point without spending the $3,000, how many trees you subtracting?
well, if we cut
After the
back on some of the
73.
crepe myrtles that we had slated for Ludlow Drive, they run about close to $600 a piece. So you're looking at about taking 6 of those out of the 25 that we had slated there,
Okay. All right,
which is doable. And we won't impact any of the residents that are waiting currently for, the trees that we discussed.
all right.
No residents will be impacted, Tom?
No, we'll just scale back on the project we started on Ludlam with the crepe myrtles. Because we got 25 crepe myrtles slated to go in there. We could cut some of those numbers back.
Mary,
Mayor,
if we can say $3,000, it's $3,000.
Mayor, if I may, I would like to suggest budgeted, I would like to remind the council that last year in our budget, we removed a substantial portion of our new tree planting into tree maintenance. So we're already quite down, 25,000 a year in tree planting is just, you know, very bare, very thin, and trees take a long time to grow. So the
I would
sooner we
just-
start planting these trees, even if it's just the ones along Ludlam, it will help us in the long run with our cooling for the city, maintaining our, should a storm come by and we lose other trees, at least we've got some trees. So I think we're talking about $3,000. I vote to go ahead and I would like to pass a motion that we vote on this as written.
I'd like to say something, Councilwoman.
Wait a minute.
Before we do that.
Councilman Petrolano, let's get a second.
I second that motion.
Okay. Further discussion.
Councilwoman, what I want you to think about, I'm all for trees. I mean, you can even label me a tree hugger. I'm all for trees, but look at the situation we're facing right now. When we budget that money last year, we weren't expecting this to be happening. And I'm all for trees and I'm all for the canopy, but I'm also for the services that we're gonna have to provide next budget. So we have to be prudent about how we spend our budgeted money from last budget. And we can't just say, hey, we already budgeted it. I think we have a greater responsibility to our community, our residents, and the next budget, and we have to be careful how we spend our money now here. We have it here in our hands. Once it's gone, it's gone. So I just want you to keep that in mind.
Councilman, and I appreciate your thought on this, and it's a well thought out reasoning. However, planting as many trees as we feasibly can, and this is something we've already budgeted in is an investment and responsibility that we have for our community. Because like I mentioned, once they plant, they take a long time to grow. So starting this year, if we can plant 70 more trees this year than we can next year, I think that's a responsibility that we owe for our community, given that we put so much money from the budget last year into new tree plantings, and where our canopy is essential to our community.
I bring this up just for the fact that we have differences of opinion on the council on this item. I bring it up because $3,000 might not sound like a lot, but I think that there would be some kind of a give and take between one council person to the other to go ahead and the $44,000 for the trees is a much greater give back than giving back $3,000 to a councilman's what a councilman feels is the right thing to do. I can't see that we can't negotiate to the 44,000 and make everybody feel like they accomplished something in this meeting.
To add something, if I may, based on what Tom shared with us, we'd be cutting back those plantings on Ludlam, and that was something that we did in collaboration in terms of agreeing to that with the Women's Club, correct? And that's something to beautify that area. And so our residents are going through enough already with all this, situation we have that's surreal. And on top of that, now we're going to tell them we're not going to plant trees out there, which the only thing that residents can do right now is walk in the afternoons and enjoy the community. And part of our community has to do with trees and everything that we have here. So why are we going to take that away for $3,000 right now?
It was six trees.
Through the chair, Mayor, if I can respond, please.
Sure.
We're not really taking anything away. We're doing exactly what we were asked to do. We're matching a grant, 22. The additional 3 was a foreshot on the part of Public Works relative to what he thought it would cost. He was pretty close. That's a good call, but he was 3 over. So that 3, in my book, would be better off back in the general fund and not utilized for 6 trees. That's what we're talking about here, right? I mean, I think everybody's getting what they want. I kind of agree with what the mayor had to say on that. Yeah.
I'll amend my motion just to move forward. I'll amend my motion to just use the money that we have for matching grants.
Second that.
Matching grants.
Is that motion satisfactory to the attorney?
Thanks, Mayor. I just want to clarify that you want, Councilwoman Mitchell, you want to match the 22,000.
We'll match the 22,000 that we have at, for the Neat Streets to program so that we get all the trees for that. What I would, is there a way, Heidi, that we can, 3,000 extra? And if we see that we have the ability to use that, I would still like to, I mean, that's what we committed to our community is the 22,000.
Yeah, but that's not within the motion. That's where that money goes back into the fund.
Okay.
I
Is
want to
there
make the motion,
that-
I want the motion clear that we're spending $44,000.
Right, so the motion's gonna read, under the recommendation in an amount not to exceed $44,000 for
Yes.
the purchase of tree planting.
That's my understanding.
I
Okay,
got a first and a second. Erica?
Yes, first, well, the amended motion was made by Councilwoman Mitchell and the seconded by Councilman Petralanda.
Okay, call the vote.
Vice Mayor Zapata,
Yes.
Councilman Best,
Aye.
Councilwoman Mitchell,
Yes,
Councilman Petrolanda,
Yes,
Mayor Bain.
Yes, thanks for cooperating with each other. It's nice. We go
Okay.
on to,
if I
We go-
may, could we have just ask William to bring up the $3,000 later if we find that in our budget? Automatically,
that's without saying.
thank you.
That's without saying. It's
Thank
budgeted. That's without saying. We go to D.
9D is a
D.
9D is in David. Recommendation by the police department that council authorize the issuance of a purchase order to Safeware Inc. utilizing the U.S. Communities Contract 4400008468 in the amount of $24,624 for the purchase of 45 Avon First Responder C50 gas mask kits as funds are in the projected fiscal year 1920 budget.
And as I mentioned in my memo, Mayor and Council, this is an item that the police chief requested a few weeks ago in light of the COVID-19. And this is one of the items that we will be submitting to FEMA for reimbursement.
Okay, so you're looking to get reimbursed for this.
Correct.
Okay.
We'll discuss it if we're getting reimbursed. If this is a FEMA, a legitimate FEMA reimbursement, I have on this.
She broke up. I didn't hear what she said.
yeah, a lot of people are coming in and out. I really can't hear everyone.
William,
Yes,
my question was said that this is FEMA reimbursed for COVID-19, that this is expected to be covered under, because for COVID-19, it's N95 and N99s that are hard. So I'm wondering why we're getting gas masks.
because under the FEMA information that we received, anything for first responders, equipment, emergency equipment and all that for first responders is covered.
Okay, then wait, the question, because it's not gas masks are necessarily covered. It's equipment responders, right?
You're breaking up, Maria.
Yeah, I can't hear her either.
You hear me? Is this any better? Is this
Go
any
ahead.
better? Do you hear me now?
Yes,
Okay. My question is, you're saying the FEMA reimbursement is emergency equipment for first responders, but it's not specifically gas mask. Are gas masks in there specifically? Because gas masks are not COVID-19 first responders. It's the N95.
let the chief respond to that.
Councilwoman, can you hear me?
Yes, yes, Chief.
The gas mask has a biological filter that would give our officers a higher level of protection in the event that this pandemic worsens. So yes, N95 is a level of protection, but these gas masks have an actual biological filter attached to it.
Yes, Chief, but the biological filter, these gas masks are very uncomfortable. They're also very, so my concern is that if we're not being reimbursed by FEMA for this, that we will buy them and they will deteriorate in the cars due to the heat. and we won't have them available to use, and it's quite an expense. So I want to.
Well, it is reimbursable, and it's all on how you take care of the equipment. I've used these same types for years, and they can be uncomfortable, but you train with it and you get used to it. But
And
it's
it's
all
better than
how,
getting sick.
it's all how we train the officers to take care of their equipment.
Okay,
I have gas masks from my previous years that are 20 years old, that are in perfect working condition.
if they're taken care of and if they're used
And
properly.
that's why we hold,
the
and that's why
majority
we hold the
of-
officers responsible and accountable.
And the gas masks are usually for protection against the gases. As
They
you can
come with two
so-
filters. They
right.
come with a chemical filter in the event that you're working in a chemical environment, and they come with a biological filter. And these filters are sealed. And once you open the seals, then obviously there's a shelf life. But as long as you maintain them sealed, they can last you for many, many, many years. Now, it's at the point where you feel it necessary to put it on, then you open up the seal and attach the canister to the gas mask. So you
Okay.
have two actual filters. You have a chemical filter and you have a biological filter.
Okay. Chief, I'll
And it
just
like
add
I said,
that the
it
officers
gives them,
training on how to use
I'm
these.
sorry?
That I'll just
sorry?
ask that, and I know you're very good at this, to make sure that our officers receive training.
absolutely.
how to-
We've done
Yeah.
fit tests.
'cause-
We've done fit tests because you just can't give one officer a mask. It's not a one mask fits everybody. We've done
That's
fit
right.
tests. We've got them assigned the correct size for them. And then we actually go into the training on how to properly don them, how to properly use them, and when and where to use them.
And this is a FEMA reimbursed expense then?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Yes, it is.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anybody else? I entertain a motion.
Motion to move with item, what is this, 6-9?
9D.
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 I second that.
Any further discussion? Call the vote. Call the vote, please. I can't hear him.
Unmute.
I'm mute. Yeah, I didn't even vote, so I don't know what happened here.
No, we have, none of us voted yet.
Oh, okay. I just wanted to say before we do so that I think that this mask that's mentioned in here is far superior to the N95s. This is something, it's like the chief said, it's a gas mask and it's used with a canister. It's not like what normal people would think you just put around your face to block the possibility of catching a virus. I think this is a far more advanced piece of equipment than that.
If you would like to look at it, if on your device, on your iPad or your iPhone, it's the Avon First Responder C as in Charlie 50.
Gotcha, sir.
You just want to get a look at it.
I got one here at the house. I'll put it on for everybody. They can see me. Call the vote, please.
Vice Mayor Zapata,
Yes.
Councilman Best,
Aye.
Councilwoman Mitchell,
Yes.
Councilman Petralanda,
Yes,
Mayor Bain.
Yes, we go to E.
This is a recommendation by the police department that council waive the competitive bid process in the best interest of the city, mainly due to that they are the only local vendor in Miami-Dade County to provide police uniforms. We've established over a 20-year relationship and approve an expenditure to lose police distributors not to exceed $25,000 for police uniforms as funds were budgeted in the fiscal year 1920 budget.
Who wanted to talk about this one?
I did. And it's the same concern that I voiced already. I don't want to go through it all over again. It's your call, chief. I know you budgeted this amount, 25,000. I just ask you, if you don't feel like you need to spend it all this year, maybe you should put it back in your budget for next year, because I think next year's budget is going to be a tough one. And I'm just concerned about that today, but it's your call. And if anybody else wants to chime in, go ahead.
May I respond?
Sure, go
Yes.
ahead.
We budget that amount, but we rarely use it all. Not every officer has to go and get new uniforms every year. Several of us, myself included, I don't need new uniforms. Several of the staff members don't need new uniforms, but a lot of the officers that are out there, the wear and tear, and if they happen to wrestle around with somebody, they have to get replacement uniforms. So it's not something that we use up the total amount every year. I don't see us using $25,000 this year either.
Good to hear, Chief. Good to hear.
William,
Thank you.
William, isn't this
Yes.
part of the obligation of the contract?
No, the contract says that we provide uniforms, but what the chief is saying is that most of this money that they budget every year for uniforms is for new officers or existing officers whose uniforms are worn out and they need to be replaced.
I understand that, but it is part of the obligation of the contract. to
We
buy
have
new
to supply them with uniforms,
Yeah.
yes.
All right, all right. I just want to make that clear. So you just can't, you maybe could cut it a little bit, but you got to pay for the uniforms. All right, anybody else, any
I have
further
a
discussion?
question. Yeah, I have a question. So basically, we're waiving the competitive bid to continue in favor of utilizing Luz, correct?
Yes, ma'am, but the reason being that for the last several years, we have attempted to, put it out to bid, and Luz is the only company in South Florida that is providing uniforms for just about every law enforcement agency in Miami-Dade County.
Right.
And I'm sorry?
No, what I was
And-
gonna say is that I think that this is fine, and I mean, the item is fine in terms of the competitive bid, and I am sure that the city is going to be conservative in terms of what officers that need it, which we have an obligation to, and if not, not.
Right.
I have trust that that's what's gonna happen, so I don't
Yes.
have an issue with this item.
And I can tell you that in my experience, having dealt with many uniform companies in the past, this is by far one of the ones that provides the best service to our officers.
Right.
I
Chief-
like that they're a county vendor whenever possible, if we can
Correct.
provide income for Miami-Dade County companies.
Yes, they're located just north of us in northern Hialeah.
Mayor,
Okay,
more.
Through the chair, I guess the question that begs to be asked here, Chief, how many uniforms did you purchase there at the last disbursement? Are
I'm sorry,
still
sir?
left on the rack?
I'm
How
sorry?
many of the uniforms that we last purchased are still on the rack?
You mean that we actually didn't buy? I'm not sure. I
No, we
understand.
didn't. Well, in other words, have we consistently used $25,000
No.
every time
No,
we
sir.
go? Okay,
No, sir.
okay.
We get
Is there
like,
room, I guess what Councilman Petrolanda's driving at here, is there room to cut something out of this? And you'd still be okay?
Well, I can tell you that we have a couple of new officers coming on board, so we're gonna have to provide them with uniforms, and the event officers that have, their uniforms are worn down by daily use. So that is the amount we've put there, and we rarely use that amount. I don't think we've used the total amount since I've been here. I'd hate to cut it, and then at the last minute, we're short. Again, based on my experience, we haven't used the full amount. So I'd hate to come back and say, listen, we need to, bump this account up again because we're at the position where we need more. So, but again, we haven't used that full amount since I've been here.
If we knock $5,000 off, would that be all right?
I'd have to go back and look to see how that would affect us.
I feel that if we make a cut here, it's like saying that we don't trust that what needs to be done is going to be done by our police chief. And I have an issue with that. He's already saying that this is not the amount that's being spent every year. And I, for one, trust that that's going to be the case this year. If there's a need, there's a need. It's been budgeted. If there isn't, he's going to be very conservative.
Chief, if you just don't, you can keep the 25,000. If you don't use it, it just goes back to the budget, correct? That's the
Yes.
way it works.
If I may step in, if you look at the budgets for the last couple of years, the police department historically has had a surplus that goes back to the general fund at the end of the year.
I'm fine with that.
I'd like to make a motion. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion.
go ahead.
Okay, I'd like to move consent item E.
I second that.
Call the vote.
Vice Mayor Zapata,
Yes.
Councilman Best,
Aye.
Councilwoman Mitchell,
Yes,
Councilman Petrolanda,
Yes.
Mayor Bain.
Yes, we go to 11A.
Mayor, I'd
Mayor,
like to, excuse
Mayor.
me, sorry, I'd like to make an announcement just in case for any public comment callers or participants that would like to join right now. Please dial 305-805-5151. The meeting ID is 863-9512-4146. Press pound. There's no participant ID, so press pound again.
Mayor and council, all of the items on number 11 are related to the mold issue at the City Hall, which we originally wanted to bring to you at the March 23rd meeting, but because of the COVID-19, it was canceled. So the first item, 11A, as you're aware, we have been experiencing, as you know, a serious mold problem in City Hall for the last couple of years. In 2018, after a flooding issue in the dispatch office, we had remediation done in the police dispatch office and other areas within City Hall. After this work, our insurer, the Florida League, performed another mold test, and a report showed at that time normal levels of mold. In February of 2019, we had another mold test done, and it revealed that the mold had returned. We obtained an estimate of the required work, which was $227,000, and proceeded to include this in this year's fiscal year 1920 budget that council approved. As we were getting ready to hire the company to do this work, we requested another assessment to be done. Last week, this was in February, we received the report, which is attached, and it revealed that there were 3 areas: police dispatch, second floor ladies bathroom, and 1 AC air return on the second floor that now showed toxic levels of mold spore. None of our prior assessments ever showed toxic levels. The problem has worsened since the last remediation. We needed to have a mechanical engineer look at our AC system airflow to determine what is causing the mold activity in the building. Attached to this package is an email from Ross Southeast, who handles our AC controls, and they state that the first step should be to see how the building can be positively pressurized. This will be the first issue to be addressed by the engineers. This is a serious health issue for our staff at City Hall and the police department, so we are taking the emergency measures as follows. And I list the 7 measures that we have already taken back in February and March. And the bottom line for this memo is that we expect the process will take, as I mentioned before, between 2 and 3 months. As you know, we budgeted $227,000 in fiscal year 1920 for this work. Per our estimate shown below, we project that once all the work is completed, this project will cost approximately $414,108. Therefore, we request that council approve appropriating an additional $187,108 for fiscal year 1920 for this project. Funds will come from available fund balance. As the project commences, we will advise council if any additional funding is needed due to unforeseen work that may be necessary.
So what's the total?
187,108,
No, I mean the total for all the project.
414,108.
And the 187 is coming out of the funds, but the other was
general
already,
fund.
the other was budgeted.
Right.
Is your prediction that this will be it?
I wouldn't say that. Once they start opening up, we've already may have some electrical work. Once they remove the ceiling tiles, a lot of the electrical that was up there was in pretty bad shape. And so it may require some more electrical work, but I don't expect any additional cost to go over maybe $15,000 to $20,000.
Okay. Any other comments?
I do, Mayor. William, and perhaps for Tom, what I see with this is that the mayor,
Yes, go ahead.
did you want to make a comment?
No, I was scratching my nose.
Oh, okay. All right. Then I'll continue. That what I see with here is with the engineering group that you have, they're mentioning about positive pressure. And in looking through all these reports for mold remediation, what I see very little mention of is maintaining the relative humidity below 60%. That is the one criteria that's the and indoor air quality technical recommendation require and recommend is that more than anything is that the internal relative humidity be maintained below 60 degrees, much more so than positive pressure of a building. So I would like to ask that you get a second opinion from another AC engineer before we move forward with, doing something as extensive as trying to maintain it under positive pressure. What's the relative humidity in the building? The other thing,
I would, before you keep
not a
going,
one-time.
before you
Mayor,
keep
if I
going,
may.
so, no, I want to make sure we get one point at a time because you've got so many. I want the question asked about the pressurized situation. That's just to do it for this time. And then what she's talking about, keeping the humidity down would be procedure down the road. Is that correct? Or because you're going to have to get the mold out first. I'm looking for an answer from staff.
I'm
looking at an answer from staff.
Okay.
I want an answer from staff.
Can I answer that?
Yes.
Along this process, we have involved our chief mechanical inspector and engineer for the city, along with this process, along with Ulysses. So he has been very involved in the whole mediation of this mold issue.
Okay, I'm looking at this memo dated 4/13 from William to us, to the council. And in the discussion, it says that in light of the mold assessment report received March 3rd, the mold condition requires we remove existing coils in 8 units and replace as they cannot be properly cleaned to assure that the problem will not repeat itself. The problem will repeat itself if we're not I can guarantee the problem will repeat itself if we're not maintaining the internal temperature, the internal relative humidity below 60 degrees. This is an ongoing issue with buildings, indoor air quality issues, and they continue to repeat themselves. The other thing that I want to stress is sampling. In fact, the CDC does not recommend sampling for mold for indoor air quality issues because it's a snapshot. And that's what, if we keep sampling, every time you sample, you're going to find some mold sometimes and other times not. And we'll spend a lot of money to address something that's just a snapshot. What's important is that it's a consistent process that we have in place to keep the humidity out of the building so the mold doesn't return. If not, this will just be an ongoing, for the next 10 years, we'll be sampling for mold and spending money doing whatever the latest air conditioning company recommends.
Tom, do you have anything to add?
Part of the quote that was provided is they're going to be putting a device on the roof that is going to be handling that issue with the humidity, controlled humidity, and it's going to condition the outside air before it comes into the building. One of the biggest issues that we had in there is that the building was running on a negative pressure, which was keeping the humidity in that building very high. So there are measures in place to correct that as we move forward, and it's incorporated in the costs that are being presented to you. Since I've taken over the building maintenance with Public Works over the last 7 years, I've been incorporating different maintenance programs and packages to prevent these types of situations from occurring. And we've been pretty successful up to now, but the air handlers in the building that we have now were installed in 2014, and they didn't come with any type of maintenance package. The coils are so long and they're block formed that we would be spending about $6,000 to $7,000 per unit to pull them and clean them. And there's no guarantee that they would be able to thoroughly go through those coils. Therefore, we'd have to replace them. So we're going to start fresh. We're going to start brand new. We're going to start with all of the new warranties that come with this equipment, plus the new equipment that's going to be installed per this new environment that we're getting into. And then we're going to have a maintenance contract moving forward so that every couple of 3 years, as recommended, that these coils and the rest of this equipment gets cleaned. It's all in the packages that we're presenting to you.
All right, thank you, Tom, for that explanation.
Okay.
And I do suggest from now on, after we get this work done, that we don't jump to have sampling done first. That should be as last resort, if ever. What's important is to look for sources of moisture And if we smell mold or mildew, see visible mold or mildew, or there's sources of moisture coming in, intrusion, then
That's,
those are reasons that mold, could occur. And we look for that. We don't really need to test to know the names of the mold, whether it's eeny, meeny, miny, mo. We should be able to see that there's a mold problem. It doesn't really matter if it's hazardous mold or not. We shouldn't be having it.
well, that's where we were. We had areas where the mold was so thick that it was actually growing out of the ceiling onto the walls. It was very visible, and there are literally thousands of different types of mold. So we had to identify what was there so we knew what we were dealing with.
Okay.
Is the reason why we had the testing. And we didn't do the testing back to back. We did the testing over a period of a couple of years. And through the last 3 years, I believe, those mold samplings on the same type of mold that we originally tested were coming back more and more advanced. And
But
that's why we are where we are.
What I'd like to maybe stress is that when there's a mold problem, when it's visible mold, like you were saying, don't really need to worry about identifying what kind, because whether it's hazardous or not, we need to correct it, because eventually, even if we don't find hazardous mold, there will be hazardous mold. So the issue is, if there's visible mold, if there's a smell or there's moisture intrusion, we need to address those issues more than relying so much on the sampling.
Right, but that's just it. It was throughout so many different parts of the building, and to be fiscally responsible, we had to do it the way we went about doing it, so that we wouldn't treat one area and still have another area being contaminated. And the cross-contamination throughout that entire building has been the air conditioning system itself. That's the main contributor of why the building is so contaminated.
Okay. Thank you, Tom.
Anybody else? Okay, I'll entertain a motion. Can you all hear me?
Can you hear me, Mayor?
Yeah, I got you.
Okay, I'm just trying to say, I understand Councilwoman Mitchell's concern because she's quite right about the two elements she pointed out, and that is the negative pressure issue and the relative humidity. My question is this, Tommy, relative to item 4, the $10,000 was spent on the mechanical engineer to design a new airflow pattern. Will that satisfy those two items?
Blocked. There we go. We had to have the mechanical engineer come in because that building is about 60 years old. And
Right.
There were so many different changes to that entire system that some units were underperforming, some areas were overperforming. Nothing made sense in there, and we didn't have any return air ducts going into the system. Sections were eliminated, sections were added. So we had to basically start from scratch and re-footprint the whole entire building so that all of these units are going to work at their normal operating capacity. And then also control the temperatures and the humidity in all the different areas that they're supposed to be providing. Right now, we didn't have that.
But we have it now.
We will have it once this is
Okay.
done, correct?
Okay.
So the two issues I put up, you're comfortable with,
Correct.
or the council? Okay, thank you, sir.
Anybody else? Entertain a motion? And we're voting on what, A, B, C, and what?
Are
No,
we doing
no,
all
that-
4, Mayor?
This is just 11A right now. It's for the appropriating 187,108
Okay,
from fund balance.
okay, a motion for 11A.
Motion to move the item, Mayor.
Do I have a second? I guess the motion fails without a second.
Evidently.
Looks like everybody's muted.
The council is
think-
not muted.
No?
I'll
All right.
second.
All
I'll
right, call
second
the-
it.
All right, call the vote. America, I can't hear you.
Oh, I can't either, man.
Yeah.
Okay, the motion is to approve the allocation from fund balance. Motion was made by Councilman Best, seconded by Councilman Petralanda. Vice Mayor Zapata,
Yes.
Councilman Best,
Aye.
Councilwoman Mitchell,
Yes.
Councilman Petralanda,
Yes.
Mayor Bain.
Yes. Okay, we go to 11B.
This is a recommendation by the city manager's office that council waive the competitive bid process in the best interest of the city based on the results of the mold assessment report dated March 3rd of 2020. As it is detailed in William's separate email to council, which was attached. And approve an expenditure to Guerrero Gonzalez Engineers, Inc. in an amount of $10,000 for mechanical engineering services pursuant to the emergency procurement process under section 31E6E of the city code. Should I continue?
That's enough for me. I don't know if anybody else wants more.
Mayor, can I interject for just a moment? Just to help with some of the feedback that some of the participants are hearing. If we can have all of the council mute and unmute themselves throughout the meeting, Erica and I are happy to do that for you if you'd like for us to. But otherwise, when you're not speaking, if we can make sure that you're muted, that would help.
Whatever's necessary, but I don't know. What's the problem? We're talking over each other, or what's the problem?
There's feedback that the audience is hearing. So when we have all of the microphones on at once, the audience, some of us are able to hear it, others are not. So if they're not speaking, if they could just be muted. And when they wish to speak, the council should have the ability to mute and unmute themselves, just the same way that you do when you're on the dais. You can push your microphone on and off. So that's just what we're asking to help with the audience, the audio experience.
Okay, all right. All right, we're gonna vote on 11B. I'd entertain a motion.
Oh, I forgot. to-
Are they?
I
Are
made a
they?
motion. I made the motion, but I forgot to unmute myself.
I made a motion.
I made the motion already.
I wasn't muted. I wasn't muted, Jamie.
Oh, I'd like to make the motion to move item 11B.
In a second, sir.
Thank you, Bob.
Call the vote.
Vice Mayor Zapata,
Did we discuss this at all?
Yeah,
You
we
could,
did.
go ahead.
Well, I think we
It's
did.
part of it was part of everything that Councilman Mitchell.
No, Maria,
spoke of.
Maria talked about the previous one. I just wanted to ask a question
This-
about this, if I may.
Well, go ahead, but was part of it.
Mm-hmm.
The engineer was part of the discussion before, but go ahead.
We're waiving the competitive bid process here in the best interest of the city. So what does that mean in terms of this vendor? Is this someone we've used before?
It is our engineer.
I'm sorry, I was muted. This is an engineer that was recommended to us by a building official and our chief mechanical inspector for the city as being an excellent professional engineer. And believe me, the $10,000 is a lot less than, we received one, we only reached out to one other person. And the quote was around what, 40,000, Tammy?
Yes.
Okay, that answers my question. I knew that you had looked at it, just wanted to have the
Thank
clarification.
you,
Thank you.
thank you.
Okay, I got a first and a second. Can we call the vote, please?
Vice Mayor Zapata,
Yes.
Councilman Best,
Aye.
Councilwoman Mitchell,
Yes.
Councilman Petralanda,
Yes.
Mayor Bain.
Yes. We go to 11C.
This is a recommendation by City Manager's Office that council waive the competitive bid process in the best interest of the city based on the results of the mold assessment report. As he detailed in his memo, and approve an expenditure to Synergy General Contracting LLC, the lowest of the three written quotes, in an amount of $234,400 for mold remediation and repairs to the City Hall. As funds are budgeted in the fiscal year 1920 pursuant to the emergency procurement process under section 31E6E of the city code.
It's 2020.
Motion to approve 11C is read.
I'll second that, sir.
Any further discussion?
I have a question, please, Mayor.
Go ahead.
William, was this something that was already approved at the last meeting? We're going forward with this money. The process is already in place, spending this money, right?
That's correct. Under the emergency procurement, section 3111E6E, I can go ahead and procure it, but I have to present it to council at the next meeting, I guess.
Right.
And since the March 23rd meeting was canceled, that's why you're hearing it now.
Okay,
But
so this is already in progress.
This is already in progress. I'm just letting you know, I want you to be a part of the process.
Thank you.
Actually, William, all 4 items are in the process.
Correct. Correct.
Did we vote on that? Did I
We have a motion and we have a second.
call a vote?
Vice Mayor Zapata,
Yes.
Councilman Best,
Aye.
Councilwoman Mitchell,
Yes,
Councilman Petralanda,
Yes,
Mayor Bain.
Yes. We go to D.
This is a recommendation by City Manager's Office. The council approve an expenditure to Thermal Concepts, a sole source provider for Train, an authorized contractor, in the amount not to exceed $83,886 for the replacement of 8 coil units related to the HVAC system in City Hall facility. And this is was pursuant to an emergency purchase process.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to move 11D, sir.
second,
Any further discussion?
I have a question. Is this already in the process also?
Yes. All 4 of these items are.
And this particular one went through competitive bid, or it did not?
He's
Okay,
a sole
it was
source
emergency.
provider.
This is a sole source. This is the only contractor that Train uses for our current system.
Okay, that's fine. Okay, that's fine.
Any further discussion? Call the vote.
Vice Mayor Zapata,
Yes.
Councilman Best,
Aye.
Councilwoman Mitchell,
yes,
Councilman Petralanda,
yes,
Mayor Bain.
Yes. We go to 11E.
And just a reminder, this item also is already in the process, but this is just so that the council approves. This is a recommendation by the City Manager's Office that council waive the competitive bid process in the best interest of the city based on the results of the mold remediation report as detailed in the mayor's memo, and approve an expenditure to Williams Scott Inc. as a sole source in amount of $45,823, a 2-month rental of 2 mobile office trailers, including furniture, installation, and a compliance ramps pursuant to the emergency procurement process.
Motion to approve 11E is read.
Second. Second.
for discussion, Mayor, I'd just like to make a comment. even though
Any further discussion?
Yes, Mayor, I would like to make a comment. I think all of us are uncomfortable with waiving competitive bids, but I'd just like to make the comment that I think under these circumstances, we, with the coronavirus, we weren't able to have a certain meeting, and these issues had to be dealt with quickly. So I just wanted to make that comment that I think for all of us, even though we don't like waiving competitive bids often, I think in these circumstances, some haste was necessary.
Okay, any other discussion?
None,
Call a
sir.
vote.
Vice Mayor Zapata,
Yes.
Councilman Best,
Aye.
Councilwoman Mitchell,
Yes,
Councilman Petralanda,
Yes,
Mayor Bain.
Yes. I had to go into another room because of the baby, but I gotta go get what's on next on the agenda?
12A?
All right,
12A.
12A. That's discussion about the circle.
Correct.
Okay,
Okay.
Councilwoman Zapata, that's yours.
Yeah. So I asked for this to be put on the agenda based on several residents reaching out to me and then seeing all of the conversation back and forth regarding the concern that the residents have about, one of the concerns that they have is not only about the traffic, but that because there's reduced lanes, that traffic will be cut through the residential area. And so I just wanted the city to address that for the sake of residents so that it is put out there. I know this is something that we had discussed previously in other meetings, but not everyone was knowledgeable about this. And so just for clarification for the residents' sake.
If I may, Councilwoman, that's,
My
you have your-
streams froze.
What? Can you hear me?
Okay, yeah, I got it now.
Okay. You have in your packet an email that I received that I requested Ms. Darlene Fernandez, who is the Director of Transportation and Public Works for the county, to provide us with a memo of the rationale the county used for doing this project and doing it the way they did it. And she addressed a lot of the concerns on this email. But as far as cutting through inner streets, that's an issue, and I'll turn it over to Tom and the police chief so they can chime in on this. But if that should have been happening now because of the traffic tie-ups in the circle, the way it was structured before, you would have had that happening anyway, currently. And the hope is, from what I get from the county and from the experts, is that by doing 2 lanes or reducing the number of lanes over a period of time, it's going to take some time for people to get used to the new traffic pattern. But over a period of time, people are going to start finding other ways to get to Hialeah and not cutting through our city. You know, very interesting. I was talking to Tom. This all started back, I'd say about 11 or 12 years ago, Tom, when they were doing the
That's
when
right.
they were doing the Okeechobee overpass on Lejeune. All of the traffic going into Hialeah was diverted to Curtis Parkway to cut across Hook Square and across the bridge. And what happened when that overpass was completed, people got used to that way of coming home and they keep using Curtis Parkway. Our feeling and the feeling of everyone I've talked to is that over time, people are going to find other ways to get to Hialeah and not cut through our city. Chief, Tom, you want to add anything to that?
I don't have a lot to lend on it now. I mean, it's all in the construction phase now. I don't think that there's anything that can be done to stop it. It's definitely going to be a challenge, a learning curve for a little while. As far as impact for interior roads and creating any other traffic tie-ups, I'm assuming that, you know, that's something that the police have probably already started to engage in or will have to study or look into. But from a public works standpoint, you know, I don't have a whole lot to lend on this. It's going to be, you know, it's as new to us as it is to everybody else.
Chief?
Yeah,
I just, if I could hear
Yes.
from Chief Guzman, because I think that our residents deserve some kind of assurance that the city will be on top of that and that people who start doing that from the beginning will be deterred from going into the residential areas that now are not being used that way. it's a huge concern, and I don't like what I'm hearing in terms of the negative, view that the residents have about how this is being done, and I'm asking you to please address that.
Likewise, I think it's going to be a learning curve. So the individuals that are cutting through, I think eventually will find other routes. As far as for people driving through the neighborhoods, as long as they're obeying traffic laws, we can't prevent somebody from driving through a neighborhood. So we continue to do traffic enforcement in areas. And when we get information about a situation in a particular neighborhood, we address that. So we stay on top of the different areas as much as we can. But again, I think that eventually individuals cutting through are going to find alternate routes to avoid some of the traffic.
I am going to ask that it be tightened, because right now, like on Westward Drive and all of that, let's say that they all start cutting through Westward Drive. We have Prince Field, we have the rec center, we have all of that down there, a lot of children and families. And so I think that we need to be like super tight in terms of speed limits and everything else to really deter that. So I know that the police already does an excellent job in the community, but that we really be very vigilant of that. I mean, extra so that they are discouraged from using our streets.
And one of the things that Darlene Fernandez mentioned in her memo is that we've been after them for years, right, Tom, about the traffic. The key issue on Hook Square is the timing of the traffic light on Okeechobee.
Right.
Right now, the way it's set up, it favors Okeechobee. So it might be a 2-minute light on Okeechobee and only be a 1-minute light on Hook Square. And one of the things she said in her email is that they're going to be looking at that and seeing if they could make the Hook Square access a little longer than what it currently is to hopefully alleviate some of the traffic.
I would just like to say, Mayor, if I may, that, since I've been on this council, the one consistent complaint that I would say I've received from residents is the congestion at the circle and the need for traffic calming, to find ways to calm the traffic, slow down the speed, and discourage people from the pass through traffic through Hialeah. It's the old nobody wants change, nobody likes change, and nobody likes things the way they are. So this is a measure the county has come forward and looked at ways to improve our circle. We are all we're really doing is coming in with what standardized traffic requirements of having marked lanes. And I really think that this has the possibility of providing traffic calming, which we all agree we need. I agree with William's assessment and that of others that the probability is that once the cut through traffic realizes that it's not any hassle for them to use the circles, they'll start using Lejeune to go north and south, and also Milam Dairy to go north and south, and hopefully not use our city as a bypass, as a through pass. I also agree with, so I want to thank the county actually for doing something about the circle. After all the years that I've been here and all I hear is the complaints, I mean, now something's happening. We aren't going from 4 lanes to 2 lanes. In reality, we had 3 lanes and we're going to 2 lanes, or you could say from 4 lanes to 3 lanes, depending on how you want to do it. It's 1 lane reduction, depending on how you want to view the existing situation and the new one. The other thing is I wanted to make a point to thank the residents that started this project going with the safety to the circle, the public space challenge that kind of made the county put some attention on the circle and the conditions we have there, and do something to make it better, to make it flow better. And also to Councilwoman Zapata's comments or concerns, which I think are very valid, about the through traffic, finding other streets to go by. If we could ask the police chief to be for the next few months after this is completed, to make sure that we have officers on side streets monitoring speed limits. I think once the through traffic realizes that they can't speed through the the side roads. Curtis Parkway is 30 miles an hour and the side roads, the residential streets should be 20 miles an hour. Once they realize that we're enforcing that, it's less likely that they'll continue to do that and they'll find Lejeune and Milam Dairy to go north and south.
Through the chair, Mayor, if I could speak on this, sir.
Go ahead.
You know, the county has always considered the circle to be a Venturi effect, if you will. In other words, something big going into something small and then something coming out. The beauty of this project, if there is the fact that what it does, it now controls what it has in the Venturi, in the middle of it, which is exactly the circle and the 2 lanes it'll afford us. For me, if I was a cut-through driver, I don't think I'd be cutting through neighborhoods to try to save time getting from point A to point B. I think you're going to have some of that. I'm no fool, but I think again, the proper circumstances put in place and with proper enforcement, I think the residents will be duly pleased at the result of what they're going to get. Thank you, Mayor.
I agree. And also, Mayor, if I could, I wanted to reach out and thank Commissioner Sosa for, you know, when this project was first brought up by the residents for the safe path to the circle, for working with us and being supportive of getting the county to look at the whole issue and look at the big picture. And I appreciate her assistance on this.
Yes, I do as well. And I'd like to add one thing. I'd like to question, William, this email that was sent from Darlene from Miami-Dade, from the city, from the county, has this been made available to our residents? Is there a way of putting it on our website so that they see the detail that's on here?
Well, yeah, I can put it on the website. They got it now. It's on the agenda so they can see it now, but I can put that up on the website. That's not a problem.
Okay, thank you. I just want them to be in the loop and.
Okay.
I just have one criticism of it. That coming off Westford Drive, making your right turn to go out of the city, they have that sharp point at the end of the concrete, whereas you have to go through almost through the lane and then actually make a right-hand turn to go on to out to the outgoing bridge. I really believe they should re-study that and make it a round curve so that you're not going through all that traffic that people are trying to go through Curtis Parkway. If they're going to keep it there like that, that's the only criticism I have, because it comes to such a point tip there that you have to make a full right. You got to go out to the circle and make a right turn. If they made that a curve, then you could go right off Westford Drive and go out. And I would like the manager to reach out to them and maybe reevaluate that one side there. And I think then it might work. It might work a little bit better. And I think it's a little bit, it's kind of because I drive through there every morning. It's kind of a little, you got to get used to, of course, but I don't understand why they made you go out 2 lanes before to make a right to go to the second lane to go out to the outgoing bridge. So that's my only criticism of it. And I will say the last thing I'll say about it is, I don't remember the renderings that the girls brought up, the ladies that brought up for this. I don't remember seeing this. I remember seeing the walkways and everything, but I don't remember seeing the big curve, that the big situation where they took that out like that. I could be wrong. It was a long time ago, but I really think they got to address that part of it. That's my last say about it. So if we're done with this, we'll move on to the next item.
Mayor, I just wanted to announce that we did receive a public comment on the item, and it was distributed to council, I think, over the weekend.
Okay. I saw that.
I did too.
We're to the 12B.
Yes.
Yes, Mayor and Council, we put this item on just in case after our last meeting where we had the COVID-19 update. We just wanted to see, since all the department heads are here tonight, if you had any specific questions to any of them on what's going on, or any concerns that you might have.
I have none. I thought we got pretty good evaluation last time. Anybody else?
Sir.
Yeah, then we go on to 11C, I guess.
Yep. 11C,
Reopening,
this is
reopening
about the golf courses.
As
Well,
you know,
we talked a lot about that last Monday, and they didn't even do anything on Wednesday.
Mayor, if I may, I just got an update that the county mayor has issued the order. It literally just got issued within the last couple of hours and just got posted on the county's website. So we'll be circulating that to all of you. And I'll go ahead. Staff has been working with the county to know what these procedures were going to be before the county issued this order. So they have had the county did have the input of various municipalities throughout. So I'll let William go ahead and provide you the update, but it literally just came out as we were transitioning into this agenda.
yeah, I think I had sent all of you a draft of it this afternoon when it first came out, but the final one just came out and it's effective 6 a.m. Wednesday, April 29th.
Okay.
And basically, on our side, it involves Omar, Parks and Recreation, and Paul with golf. So I'll let Omar go through his plan for opening. Basically, we're talking about the 3 parks and the tennis courts. And Omar will get into that because in this order, it says parks need to be open from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. And that creates a staffing issue for Omar. So he's come up with a different plan as far as hours and parks that'll be opening. So I'll let Omar fill you in on the details.
All right, before we get started on that, so we don't waste time, we're gonna ask the council if they're gonna abide by the county's orders or they're not gonna abide by the county order. That was the issue last time. I don't want to go through all these details, and it was a 4-1 vote last time to open the golf course up and so on. I don't want to go through all these details if we're not going to go ahead and we've abide by the county rules, the county ordinances, the county guidelines since this has started. And then last Monday, we decided to go above the county's order by not opening the golf course if they open the golf course up on Wednesday. So I want to know from council if they're willing to follow the guidelines of the county or not.
Mayor, if I may, Mayor, there's 2 issues here. One is, does council agree that we should open the parks and the golf courses on April 29th?
That's what I'm asking.
And
That's
second
what I'm
is,
asking.
we don't
That's
want to
what
go
I'm
with,
asking.
what I'm saying is we don't want to go with the county rule. We want to be a little more stricter as far as the times.
I understand the time. That's irrelevant to what I'm trying to say. I understand what we have to do in our city at times, and we don't have to be open 7 to 8. I understand that part.
Okay.
What I want to know is if the council is willing, with our guidelines as far as hours, are willing to follow the county plan to reopen these sections of the city. You're mute, Bobby.
Am I mute?
No, you're not.
Now you are.
I'm okay. All right, thanks.
Yeah.
All right, thank you, Mayor. Yes, last week I was probably a little more overhanded than I normally am relative to an issue. And I think at the time I had a right to be. What I'm looking at now, though, is a little more of the psychological aspect of what we're doing. And that means exactly that. What do people do every day to give them a little bit of exercise and to get out there and to properly control it? The numbers are different now than they were when we spoke a week ago. You are looking at quite a bit of space in the hospitals, for instance. And that to me is very important. What really concerns me the most is the propensity of us making the wrong move and then reversing itself and coming back bigger than it was the first time. I, for one, can't speak to my other colleagues on council, but I will tell you this. I am willing to take a look at this and see how it works. And God help me if I'm wrong. But let's take a look at it. Let's do it within the control of what's been put out, because it is pretty stringent. If I'm sure all of my colleagues have read it. He just announced it this afternoon or this evening, as Haiti pointed out. But it was basically not so much different than what had been put out previously. So I'm okay with giving it a shot. I have full confidence in Paul Odell and his staff, and certainly full confidence in Omar and his staff, that proper measurements will be taken. And let's take a look at it and see where we go from here. We can't just continue to live in a bubble forever.
Okay.
I totally get that, and I get what was said last week. Thank you, Mayor.
Well, then I guess I would like to have a motion if we want to go, Bob, you made your what you had to say because you were the one that was in front of it last time. But
Yes,
what I
sir.
look for is a motion that we're going to abide by the county as of this meeting, we'll abide by the county's decisions.
Okay, I'll make a motion that we do that, sir.
I'll second
Do I have a
that.
second?
I'll second it.
Okay, any further discussion? Call a vote.
Vice Mayor Zapata, Vice Mayor
Yeah.
Zapata,
Yes, I needed to unmute myself. I'm sorry. Yes.
Councilman Best,
Aye.
Councilwoman Mitchell,
Yes.
Councilman Petralanda,
Yes,
Mayor Bay.
Yes, okay, now we'll go ahead and have our report from Recreation and from the golf course and the hours or whatever the recommendation is for our city.
Let's start with Omar.
Yeah.
Omar?
Mayor, Council, how you guys doing?
Doing fine.
Good morning. How you doing?
Good. So we've been working on this for almost about 7 to 10 days now in reference to myself and about 30 something of the directors in the county to kind of come up with a phase one to allow people to use, our green space and our parks just to basically get them out of the house a little bit. It's not healthy to be quarantined for 40 something days. It's not good for you mentally and physically. So we decided that we got to at least start somewhere and see if we could, get people out to do some exercise and hopefully it doesn't get out of control like Councilman Best said, and then we could move on to other phases. So the biggest thing is that myself and other cities are challenged with is staffing it the way the county is pushing it in reference to, they want staff members at parks all the time. They want bathroom attendants cleaning the restrooms. So it's not only just having one body at the park and we're just turning on the lights and turning off the lights like we do most of the times, we're not in the pandemic. It's going to be a couple of bodies per park, roughly for, according to them, 12 hours a day for 7 days out of the week. For us, that's impossible. We're looking at putting employees where they're working every day out of the week, never having a day off, and we're going over the threshold of 29 hours a week. So between myself, Kaden, and Danny, we've met several times, and we decided that we're probably going to propose where we're going to go Monday through Friday, PV Dove and Stafford from 12 p.m. to 8 p.m. Reason being, in the morning time, the kids they're still in virtual school, so they're not really using the parks at that particular time. And then Prince Field will only be open from 4 o'clock in the afternoon to 8 o'clock at night, or till sundown, more or less. And then Saturday and Sundays, we're going to propose opening up the parks all day, both Saturday and Sunday. Now, the tricky
You can staff
thing
that, Omar?
we have 13 part-timers that are actually be manning the parks and our 10 lifeguards. We're going to be using the lifeguards to help us out because we need to. We have to be able to do it, to properly do it. One of the things that we discussed was the potential of media using this opportunity to expose us. Not only us as the city of Miami Springs, but anybody in Miami-Dade County or other municipalities, because of the fact that obviously there are medias out there that they think that we probably shouldn't open, and there's media who think we should open. So the guidelines are very strict because of that, where employees have to wear masks, people at the park have to wear a mask, there has to be bathroom attendants, water fountains are not allowed to be used. You have to bring your own water. So all these things are done to basically protect us from potential either liability or exposure of media where we look like we didn't do our due diligence and we're opening up the parks and it's like we don't care. So the rules and the CDC and state health department guidelines are very stringent on purpose. And I agree with them because it'll give us the opportunity to at least get back to normal and still provide leisure for our residents. But we're well prepared. I've spoken to Manny Fabian. He's going to open up the tennis courts. His schedule is going to be a little bit different. He's going in the afternoons from 4 to 8, Monday through Friday. They are doing one-on-one lessons with their instructors, Saturday mornings from 8 to 11 and Sunday mornings from 9 to 11. They can't play doubles. They can only play singles matches, and they could do one-on-one coaching. We're moving picnic tables and bleachers and tying them to the fence, so there's nowhere where people can sit down and congregate. Water fountains not in use. They have to bring water, and that's basically it. The initiative for us is to really we're waiting for tonight's meeting to then get tomorrow with Daniel, our public information officer, and get a lot of this information out as much as possible to our residents through social media, the internet, etc. We want them to come to the parks and enjoy it, but we don't want them to get there. We have to turn them away. They have to wear a mask. They have to bring their own water, and they have to follow the CDC guidelines in place. If they don't, then we'll be asking them to leave the park. Okay, thank you, Omar.
How about signage at the parks, Omar?
We will have signage. One of the things we discussed was we're gonna have a table. We're gonna have like kind of like a center hub area in each park where we're gonna have a table with the flyers and the rules and the guidelines so that residents or park patrons can grab and take with them. We're gonna encourage them by walking around and telling them, please go ahead and grab a flyer sheet, like a cheat sheet of what they can and cannot do at the parks. We're not going to be handing it to them. That's one of the things we discussed in meetings. They don't want us handing it to them because obviously then we're no longer within that 6-foot social distancing situation. So we're going to be cleaning the restrooms periodically. We're going to be sanitizing them. We're going to be sanitizing the parks every morning as much as possible. And we're going to try to do the best that we can. I think we're ready. I think we should be fine. But we just got to get our residents to understand that, it's still a severe issue and we just can't go to the parks and just run like we used to, 2 months ago. There's a process and this is phase 1 and hopefully we'll get there. Thank you, Omar.
Omar, how about the boat ramp and the racquetball court?
The racquetball courts, sorry.
The dog park too.
The dog park is
closed.
Yeah, the dog
It's
park
closed.
is closed.
That's not part of this.
Yeah, it's not part of it. The racquetball courts, we decided to keep it closed because it's very confined back there. We thought it, and we really can't manage and supervise what really happens there. We want to be able to keep our eyes on as many people as possible. And we're going to open up the boat ramp every morning like we did in the past. We open it up in the morning and we're going to close it in the afternoon. We will put signage there. There are rules that they have to follow, but the boat ramp is relatively small anyway. So it's not like you could put 10 boats there. It's still going to have its, 1 or 2 kayaks at a time. And we're just hoping that, people can follow the guidelines as much as possible.
Mayor, if I may,
So-
Omar, the playground equipment will remain closed?
That is correct. There's a list of things that are going to remain closed. Playgrounds. So they don't want anybody using the bike racks at all. Playground, exercise equipment, the dog park, recreation buildings like our rec center, picnic shelters like we have at Stafford where people can sit. They don't want anybody using that. Campgrounds, skate parks, swimming pools, concessions, things of that nature.
Omar, and as far as it sounds, and thank you, and I echo the sentiments. Both Paul and you are professionals, and you do an exceptional job with the golf, with the parks. So
thank you.
Your judgment, and I know both of you have put in a ton of hours reviewing these the county guidelines and seeing how we can apply them to our cities. As far as staff, though. It seems like you're opening a lot of hours for these parks. Do you, and you mentioned the shortage of staff. Do you feel comfortable with this amount of staff that you can run these hours, or would you like to shorten them. And I mean, this is a soft opening. It can, you know, if you think this is too much of a quick jump start for these many hours,
Well,
our
initially,
our residents would be, you know, happy to have any opening, but they certainly understand if we can't manage as many hours as.
initially we thought the hours could be a problem, to be very honest with you. But myself and Caitlin and Danny, we basically came up with like a chart, and we started to figure out how many bodies we needed per park, per space. And then we got with James, and James said, look, I got like 8 or 10 guards that really, when the pool's not open. So that gave us the liberty to be able to use the hours that I requested. If let's say, for example, the aquatic center was open and I didn't have lifeguards, I'd probably have to cut the hours back a lot less. Yeah.
And one thing I just want
So
to
like,
mention that perhaps should find that could use volunteers there. I'm sure there are people in the community that might be interested in helping to volunteer to, if there's some way that you find that they can to volunteer to help your staff with some park openings out there anyway. But also
we have some plans in place. For example, right now we were talking today where in phase 2 they might open up pools. So if they do that, then I'm gonna lose roughly about 8 to 10 bodies to the aquatic center. So we're already looking at summer staff that we had last year that we could bring on as a temporary seasonal employees that can fit that gap of the 8 or 10 that we could lose. So we're already being proactive and looking at ways to be ready if we start to see that, you know, they're gonna start to work further on with these phases. But I think right now we're okay. The good thing is that we could always adapt one way or the other depending on how it flows. But I do want to try to give people enough opportunities to get to the parks. For example, my daughter is 4 years old, and as soon as she's done with virtual school, she wants to get out of the house. That's the first thing she wants to do. Anywhere but home. So I'm just trying to see if we can get people to start to use our open spaces a little bit more.
And I have one more question regarding the tennis courts. I know you said that some of the coaching is going to start. Are the courts going to be open for singles play, just for people to go? There's going to still be courts open, or is it just for, is Manny planning to just do the coaching?
No, he's going to do coaching, and I told him he has to have courts available for the public to have
For
singles.
singles.
Yes.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
No problem. Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, we go to the golf, I guess. You want to have a report from Paul Odell?
Excuse me, Mayor, I'm sorry. I have a person who would like to speak or ask a question.
Let's let Paul go through it, and then afterward, that'll be the last we have to do before. Let Paul go through his, in case there's any questions she or he has about that.
Okay.
Go ahead, Paul.
Unmute yourself, Paul.
There we go. Well, we prepared last week. We went through the Golf Task Force recommendations. We finished that last week extensively. We did the same thing again today. And, you know, it's like the mayor said in his press conference, I'll keep you safe, you keep me safe. And our biggest item that we'll have to do is monitor that everybody adheres to the rules. And it's a situation where, I mean, it's going to be a soft opening because we've got basically 82 golf carts, because 3 we need to be with staff, 82 for players, which, you know, it's only 1 golf cart per player. So we're down to 20 times pretty much. And going off of 1 and off of 10. And it'll be limited play at best. And opening up, as I said last week, it's going to be, first of all, for Miami Springs residents, Fiji residents, and members. I anticipate going through it today, talking with Mason, talking with Lori, that most of our times, our golf times, are going to be taken by our local folks. What's left over, then we will reach out to our normal players that we have seen over years. Availability to the general public, quite honestly, will be limited because there's not going to be that much availability out there. Our biggest thing, our restrooms are ready to go on course and off course. Our procedures and policies with staff are ready to go. We meet with staff at 10 o'clock tomorrow morning. And it was based really on what the county mayor said and what council decided to do with the golf course. So we tentatively have everything set for 10 tomorrow morning. As soon as this meeting's over, we'll be contacting everybody and tell them it's a go. And everybody get a copy of the rules and regulations that were set forth by the Golf Task Force. And I'm going to have them all sign that they've read it and understand it. The biggest thing is understand it and understand what we have to do to keep everybody safe. Not only us, but the players as well and society in general. We want to get them out. People are cagey. I can't tell you how many times the phone has rang. Want to know if we're ready to open, if they can come out. And we're going to limit to our regular people, to our residents. And again, as I reiterated, residents, our members, and the people that we know. But we're ready to go. We have everything that we need to go. Our signage is ready. Our policies and procedures are ready. So I think, going forward, we're as good as we can get at this point in time. We may adjust. I think, the biggest thing is going to be controlling people that show up that don't have tee times, that aren't on the tee sheet, and we're going to have to turn them away because we're not prepared for them and they're not prepared for us. And so it'll be a very limited amount of people out there.
Mayor, I have a question for Paul.
Go ahead.
All right, Paul, I want you to share your plan to keep the 60 and older players separate from the younger players. What have you addressed that? What is your plan for that?
Well, there is no plan for that, quite honestly. I kind of think that that's age discrimination to a certain extent, but there's no separation of ages. You have people that play together in a foursome that maybe you have a couple guys that are in their 50s, 60s, and you got other guys in their 20s, like their son.
Paul, that's one of the recommendations from the PGA that is on our packet, that we should try to do that.
We'll try and do it, but I can't guarantee you that that's going to happen. If I've got a father who wants to play with his son's 24 and the father's 65, I'm not going to separate the father and the son. Some of them could live in the same household. It's like kids that are 8 years old that are coming out, or 10 years old. They're coming out with their fathers. We're not going to segregate by age. We're going to try and we're going to enforce the recommendations of the Golf Task Force. And
that's one of them, though.
That covers all age groups.
That's one of the recommendations, to do that. So maybe you should just bring it up, because I hear what you're saying. You don't want to be splitting up families either, but maybe it's something that we should let them know, because that's one of the recommendations. If you read the agenda, you would see it. I don't mean you.
On the mayor's order that just came out, the recommendation says, where possible, clientele 60 years of age or older shall be separated from younger clientele, where possible. What Paul's talking about in the example of a father coming out with a son.
Exactly. You don't want to separate him either, but I think we should just let them know that it's prudent to do that.
We'll be doing that. I hope that they recognize, again, it's like you protect me, I'll protect you.
Absolutely.
Okay. Heidi, you had your hand up?
Just a clarification, Mayor, we keep referring to them as recommendations. I want to make sure that the council and the public understands that what the county has issued are not recommendations. These are the requirements in order for these facilities to be open. So I know that staff is working to make sure that their staff and the public abides by it, but they are requirements.
Okay. Anything
Yes,
else?
they are.
Anything else from anybody? All right, let's have that person that would like to speak.
Yes, sir. I'll unmute them now. So the speaker with the phone number ending in 517, you're unmuted.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Rose Vargas. My address is Azure Way. And thank you very much. I'm very impressed to see the hard work and thinking and proactiveness that's going into opening up our city responsibly in order to protect all of us. My question is specific to the playgrounds. I have a very young son, and if I heard correctly, the play sets are going to be closed. So the playgrounds, the swings, those types of structures are going to be closed. So what is the expectation? What are you expecting to see the children do in the parks? What would that look like? Just as an example, so I understand what's expected of the community.
Omar, you want to answer that?
Sure. Well, to answer your question, and thank you for participating, we really appreciate it. Basically, what we want is people to just get to the park and where they could throw a frisbee, they could fly a kite, they could take a soccer ball and kick it with their family. You know, they could even, just walk around, just get out really for now. We really don't know the extent of phase one. We're hoping that phase one goes relatively smooth. People are following the guidelines, and we tried to open up playgrounds in phase one. We felt that it would have been overwhelming because that's an attraction. Like if you're opening Disney World, like an attraction like that, a million kids would have flooded to the playgrounds. So we're hoping that we could just start with phase one as far as the county's concerned, and then kind of just ease into that next phase, which playgrounds will probably be in the next phase. But what we're looking to do is I have a 4-year-old myself, and my plan is to take her out there with a soccer ball, a blanket, have her just run around a little bit, just get out of the house, get some fresh air, throw a frisbee, things like that, really. Just real passive leisure and recreation.
Okay. All right, so we got that taken care of. We're going to go to the last agenda item, and that's the appointment to the primary and secondary delegate to the League of Cities Board of Directors. Who wants to be the primary delegate?
I'd like to nominate Maria.
Maria, you're muted. Maria, you're muted.
Thank you, Councilman Petrolanda. And yes, I would like to, I would accept the nomination if it was given.
Then let's have a nomination and a second, and let's vote on it. Let's get her out of the city into the county.
Motion to move for Maria Mitchell as a delegate to the.
Second, got first and second, call a vote.
Vice Mayor Zapata,
Yes.
Councilman Best,
Aye.
Councilwoman Mitchell,
Yes.
Councilman Petrolanda,
Yes.
Mayor Bain.
I'm not muted? Yes. Yes. And who wants to be the secondary? I think Jaime, I can't make the motion, but I think Jaime should be second.
I'll make that motion. Motion to move.
Can I second that?
Thanks. Call a vote. Call a vote.
Vice Mayor Zapata,
Yes.
Councilman Best,
Aye.
Councilwoman Mitchell,
Yes.
Councilman Petrolanda,
Yes.
Mayor Bain.
Yes. Enjoy the free dinners.
Free, we pay for them.
Wait a minute. He got the vote for himself.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maria did. Maria voted.
All right, let's
for
go to city manager.
Oh, boy.
Anything?
No, Mayor.
Okay. City attorneys? They're muted. It's the best city attorneys I've ever seen muted like that.
No, Mayor.
City council? Anything?
I do. I have something.
Sure.
First of all, I want to thank the folks from the Optimist Club, Tony Silva and everyone, the staff, everyone that worked on Saturday's food giveaway, especially the mayor. The mayor was out there directing traffic. He did a fine job. There was no crashes, no accidents, nothing. Everything went well. It was such a success, Mayor, that I think we should duplicate it again. I spoke to Tony Silva during the meeting, and we've been having discussions back and forth with the city manager, and we'd like to see if we can do it again. Not this weekend coming up, but the following weekend. And I like us to have it at the rec center. So I think what we need is consensus, because the way it's going to work is we're going to split the cost. It's going to be between Virginia Garden and ourselves, Miami Springs, this time around. And if there's a need for a third one, then we would move to Virginia Gardens location. But the way it's going to work is we need to allocate $1,000, and Virginia Gardens is going to allocate another $1,000. And Spencer Dino is okay with this already, to buy the food and do a second food giveaway for the needy people. So I guess what we're looking for, William, is consensus. We are allowed to donate $1,000 to the.
Consensus to use $1,000 from council's circle budget, which has the money available. And I already spoke to Mayor Dino, and he's willing. He's also chipping in the other $1,000 for a total of $2,000 so that they can buy the food.
And then we'll take care of everything.
You don't need
Everything.
council's approval. That's Williams allowed to spend a certain amount of money without our approval.
It's
Yeah.
coming out of your budget, your council
Yeah.
budget for the circle event.
Right.
So I'd like to get your okay on it.
I have no problem with that, Mayor.
Well,
Thank you, Bob.
do you want to vote?
Do we need to, or can we get a consensus? I mean,
Yeah.
I'm
Consensus.
consensus. I don't care. It's consensus to me. Everybody
Yeah.
agree?
Yes,
Yes, sir.
definitely.
I'm good with
All
it.
right.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you all. Thank
And
you all.
the
thank you for
Optimist
bringing that up, Councilman Petrolanda.
the Optimist Club did a very nice job. The people that came to get the food were very orderly and very nice. And the volunteers that showed up, it was heartfelt, because there was young, old, everybody, and nobody stood still. And we got to thank Ricky Meats, who donated all the chicken that was delivered. There was over 500 half chickens that were, as George Loeb called them, baby turkeys. They were huge. And I think they gave away 700 hamburgers. So it was a real nice event, and the people were appreciative of it.
Decent.
I think that's it, this council meeting. I think we can adjourn it. I think we did a good job tonight, better than the last meeting. And everybody
Well, I think
have
it
a
was a
good evening.
combination of both meetings that made sense.
No, the other meeting wasn't so good. Everybody have a great day. This
You too,
meeting's
sir.
adjourned.
Nice
Adjourned.
job,
All right,
Bill.
Mayor.
Good night.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.
How do you turn this thing off?
You're still on, Mayor. You're still
Just
on.
unplug it from the wall.
Where's it say?